back. So here we are in Unreal. We're editing the blueprint of a door that we created. When we created this blueprint that we called BP Door, it was in order to tell the Unreal Engine that this object, which was previously just seen as a static mesh actor, is actually going to be a door inside of our game. So we're going to be able to give it the functionality of what a door does. This is the editor window for editing a blueprint, and when it comes up, we've got a number of different things that we can look at. So at the top here, we have a couple of windows for viewport, construction script, and event graph. Viewport just allows us to see the object, so I can take a look at what this object looks like when it's brought into the game world. Construction script is going to be the information here that is created when this object is created in memory. The event graph is going to be the things that happen when events occur. In Unreal, we're going to be using what's called event-driven logic or event-driven programming. And the way that this works is that our objects are just going to sit around and wait for specific events to occur. When this event occurs, we're going to be able to tell it to do different actions. In this case, we're going to take a look at some of the events that kind of come automatically to our objects when we create these blueprints in Unreal. And there's 3 of them that are set up here. We'll see that they're grayed out because the fact that they're currently not attached to anything means that they aren't ever going to run because they don't do anything, right? So even if that event occurs, there's nothing to be done. So they're currently disabled and they're not going to be called. So the first event we're going to look at is called Event Begin Play, and it's going to be the important one for the lesson that we have today. This event occurs when the game starts if the object is already in the level. This event will also be fired if we were to ever spawn or create one of these objects at runtime. As soon as this object begins to play inside of our game, it's going to call this Begin Play event, and this event will do whatever functionality comes off of this execute pin. There are also other events like Actor Begin Overlap and Event Tick that run under different conditions. For example, Actor Begin Overlap runs when another object overlaps our object, and Tick will run every frame draw, every time it draws to the screen. Now, as level designers, we rarely want to use Event Tick because this is going to use a lot of processing, so we're going to kind of ignore that for now. But in this class, we're going to use the other 2 events quite often to do some interesting things. In order to get our events to do something, we're going to add nodes that are going to represent the actions that we want to perform when these events happen. So for now, we're just starting by looking at the Event Begin Play event. The Begin Play event fires whenever this actor begins playing. So if we were to click on this execute node, we could drag a line off of it and connect it to the action we want to have happen whenever we begin playing. If I release, it's going to bring up a list of all of the actions that I can choose from. There's a checkbox in the corner for context sensitive. When this checkbox is checked, Unreal will look at where our line has started and only provide us with actions that work with that starting pin as an input. There are a lot of actions here in this list, and we don't need to know all of them. We just need to know the ones that we're going to use to do the functionality that we want to do. Pretty much everything that can be done inside of Unreal is going to be in this list somewhere. So if you think about all of the different games that have been made in Unreal, all of the different games that can be made, this is an enormous list of actions that can be performed. We're going to start with a single action node that's known as print string. So if I start typing in the search, I can very quickly find the node that I'm looking for. So I'm going to bring up the print string node by clicking on it here. We'll see that's connected by this line through our execute pins. Execute pins are the ones that have these little kind of pentagon shapes pointing off. They signify the order in which these actions are going to be performed. So whenever our event begin play occurs, it's going to send a message to run this functionality, to run this node, print string, and it will print the string hello to the screen. Now I'm going to make it a little more interesting, and we're going to put our own text in here. So I'm going to say hello world so that we can be certain that this is our text that we're displaying and what we want to have done. So now we've built a blueprint of a door that actually is going to do something. And it's going to do exactly what we told it to do, which is sit and wait for the begin play event. When the begin play event is fired, when it is called, we're going to print the string hello world to the screen. So I'm going to save and compile my blueprint. I'll close my editor. and we'll hit play inside of the game window to take a look at the game in action. When I press play, we'll see that my door prints hello world over here in the corner. Let me do it again so we can see it a second time. I'm going to stop. When I press play, the begin play event will fire, and it will call our print string node, which prints string over here in the corner of the world. Excellent. So we've done scripting already. This is our first scripted event that happens inside of Unreal. What I want you to do before we get to our next lesson is take a moment to think about all the things that you might want to have happen as soon as an object enters the world. So, for example, if you have an NPC who is, juggling tomatoes in front of a store, you want them to start playing their juggling animation as soon as the level begins. Later, as we get more advanced in our blueprints, we'll see that we're also going to want to do things like storing the beginning states of information, so that if we ever need to reset one of our objects back to where they were at the start, we need to save where they are at the start. In our next lecture, we're going to do some slightly more interesting things by customizing the message that's going to appear and by allowing our blueprints to make decisions or make choices based on information that's passed into them.